How language shapes the way we think. I'm going to talk to you using language because I can. This is one of the special abilities that we humans have. We can share complex thoughts with each other. Right now, I'm making sounds while I breathe out. These sounds are vibrations in the air. These vibrations travel to you, hit your eardrums, and then your brain changes those vibrations into thoughts. At least, I hope that's happening. Because of this ability, humans can share ideas across space and time. We can pass knowledge from one mind to another. I can even give you a new thought right now. Imagine a jellyfish dancing in a library while thinking about quantum mechanics. You probably never had that thought before, but now you do because I made you think it with language. But there isn't just one language in the world. There are about 7,000 different languages spoken around the world. Languages are different in many ways, like sounds, words, and the way sentences are made. Most importantly, they have different structures. So, does the language we speak change how we think? This question is very old. People have wondered about this for a long time. Charlemagne, a Holy Roman emperor, once said, "To know another language is like having a second soul." He believed language shapes how we see the world. But on the other hand, Shakespeare's character Juliet said, "What's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." This means maybe language doesn't change how we see the world. These ideas have been argued over for thousands of years, but we don't have data to answer the question. Now researchers, including me, study this and gather real data. Here's one of my favorite examples. In an Aboriginal community in Australia, there's a language called Kuuk-Thayore. The people who speak this language don't use words like left or right. Instead, they use directions like north, south, east, and west. For example, you might say, "There's an ant on your southwest leg," or "Move your cup a little to the north-northeast." Even when you say hello in Kuuk-Thayore, you say, "Which direction are you going?" And the answer could be something like, "North-northeast, far away. What about you?" So, you have to know which direction you're going all the time. Because of this, people who speak Kuuk-Thayore are very good at knowing where they are. They are better at staying oriented than we thought humans could be. We used to think humans weren't good at this compared to animals. But it turns out that if your language and culture train you, you can be just as good at staying oriented. To show you how different this is from how we think, close your eyes and try to point southeast. Okay, you can open your eyes. Many of you will be pointing in different directions depending on where you are. Right? Honestly, I don't know which way southeast is where you are right now. This shows a big difference in how different languages shape our thinking. There are also big differences in how people think about time. I have pictures of my grandfather, who is of different ages. If I ask an English speaker to put these in order, they'll probably go from left to right, because that's how we write. But if someone speaks Hebrew or Arabic, they might do it from right to left. How do the Kuuk-Thayore people do it? They don't use words like left or right. Here's a hint. When we sat people facing south, they put time in left to right order. When we sat them facing north, they arranged time from right to left. When they faced east, time came towards the body. What's the pattern? It's from east to west. For them, time is based on the landscape, not the body. If I'm facing one way, time goes that way. But if I turn around, time goes the other way. For the Kuuk-Thayore, time doesn't follow the body, it follows the landscape. This is a very different way of thinking about time. Here's another smart human trick. If I ask you how many penguins are in a picture, you'd count them. You'd say 1, 2, 3, and the last number would tell you how many penguins there are. You learned this as a child. It's a simple trick with language. But some languages don't have words for exact numbers, like 7 or 8. People who speak those languages don't count, and they struggle with exact quantities. If I asked them to match the number of penguins with ducks, they wouldn't be able to do it the same way you could. Languages are also different in how they name colors. Some languages have many color words, while others might have only 2, like light and dark. In English, we use one word for blue, but in Russian, there are different words for light blue and dark blue. Russians have spent their lives making this distinction in language, so they are faster at telling the difference between light blue and dark blue. When people's brains see these colors change, Russians react as if something big has happened when the color shifts from light blue to dark blue. But for English speakers, there's no clear change, because we don't make that distinction. Languages also handle grammar differently. One of my favorites is grammatical gender. In some languages, nouns are masculine or feminine. But these genders change between languages. For example, in German, the sun is feminine, and in Spanish, it's masculine. Could this affect how people think? Yes, it can. For example, if you ask German speakers to describe a bridge, which is feminine in their language, they might say it's beautiful or elegant. But for Spanish speakers, who see the bridge as masculine, they may describe it as strong or long. Languages also affect how we describe events. Take an accident, for example. In English, it's normal to say, he broke the vase. But in Spanish, you might say, the vase broke, or the vase broke itself. If it's an accident, you wouldn't blame someone directly. In English, we even say things like, I broke my arm, which sounds odd in many other languages unless you meant to break it. This difference changes how people think. If you show the same accident to English and Spanish speakers are more likely to remember who caused it, because their language focuses on the person who did it. Spanish speakers, on the other hand, will focus more on the fact that it was an accident and may not remember the person involved as clearly. This affects how we blame and punish. If you show someone breaking a vase and say, he broke the vase, people will punish that person more than if you said, the vase broke. Even though everyone watched the same event, the words used can change how we think about it. So, language shapes how we see events. I've shared a few examples of how language can deeply influence our thinking, like how we view space, time, numbers, or even simple things, like colors. Language affects how we make everyday decisions, even small ones, like telling colors apart. Grammatical gender, for example, might seem like a small thing, but it applies to every noun in some languages, meaning it can influence how we think about anything we can name. Language even affects important ideas like blame, punishment, and memory, which are part of our daily lives. The beauty of language diversity is that it shows how flexible and creative the human mind is. Human minds have created not just one way of thinking, but 7,000. There are 7,000 languages in the world, and we could create even more. But sadly, we're losing many languages quickly. We're losing about one language every week, and half of the world's languages may disappear in the next 100 years. What's worse, Most of what we know about the human mind is based on studies of English-speaking university students. That leaves out almost all of humanity, so our understanding of the mind is very limited. This is why learning more languages is such a huge advantage. It's not just about finding better ways to communicate. It opens up your whole mind to think in new and different ways. One language simply can't do that. But when you learn a second language, you realize there are countless ways of seeing the world. Every language you learn introduces you to a whole new reality. Literally. For example, my mother tongue is Persian, and I speak English fluently. I learned to drive on the right side of the road in Iran. When I moved to South Africa, I had to switch to driving on the left. No problem, until my friends in the car switched from speaking English to Persian. Without even thinking, I'd start drifting back to the right side of the road, scaring everyone. It still happens from time to time, even now that I'm in Australia. Charlemagne once said, "To have a second language is to have a second soul," and I find this to be true. For someone who speaks 3 languages, it feels like having 3 different lenses on the world. You watch movies from different countries, read books in different languages, experience various cultures, and form relationships across diverse backgrounds. Learning a new language isn't just learning new words. It's gaining a new perspective, a new reality, or even a new soul. Someone said, "Learning more languages has deepened my understanding of history and how people from different cultures act and think. It's fascinating to see the world through those different viewpoints." I completely agree with this. I studied Japanese for 5 years, and during that time, I noticed my perception of reality changing. Everything felt different. The air, the colors, the taste of things, and even my expectations. Japanese is structured in a very logical, block-like way, with the verb at the end of the sentence. It helped me think more clearly and organize my thoughts better. It's sad to think we are losing so many of the world's languages, each one representing a unique way of experiencing life. These languages are like entire universes, and losing them feels like losing pieces of the human mind. I wish we could find a way to preserve these languages and keep them alive, just as we should with the many beautiful philosophies and religions that are disappearing. Each one brings something invaluable to the richness of human experience. I'll leave you with one final thought. I've told you about how speakers of different languages think differently. But of course, that's not about how people elsewhere think. It's about how you think. It's how the language that you speak shapes the way that you think. And that allows you to ask, why do I think the way that I do? How could I think differently? And also, what thoughts do I wish to create? Language is more than just a tool for communication. It's a doorway to new worlds, perspectives, and ways of thinking. Each language we learn expands our minds and deepens our connection with the world around us. So, whether you're just starting or already learning a new language, keep going. Embrace the journey of discovery and see how it changes the way you think, live, and connect with others. Together, we can keep these linguistic worlds alive and thriving. Start learning today and unlock a whole new reality. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe for more stories.